Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. CBSSports.com had a story they put out earlier today, courtesy of Will Backus, and he's got post-spring SEC football power rankings. And I just wanted to kind of go through and see where he had some teams slotted. Understand that we'll get deeper into this discussion as we get to SEC Media Days in Dallas coming up in July. But it appears that he's basically, I didn't see anything here that shocked me. I think we kind of understand how most people feel about most of the teams and programs in the Southeastern Conference, and he's not rocking the boat a ton here. He basically says there are two teams vying for the top spot. He picked Georgia as the top. Texas is the other team. If you listened to our interview with Blake Brockermeyer last week, when he was talking about some of this, he said that he thought those two teams were in the top tier. I think the discussion around Georgia is different this time around because Georgia has a real schedule this year. Last year, you looked at that, and yeah, Ole Miss started playing better at the end. Missouri was better than we thought, and they did play Tennessee there late. But you took Oklahoma off their schedule, and it was pretty weak. This year, I still think Georgia's going to be favored every time they take the field, but they've got some real speed bumps in front of them that could be potential trouble. It's Clemson in Atlanta to open the season. They do go to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama. They do go to Austin to play Texas. They do go to Oxford to play Ole Miss. Tennessee comes to Athens to play them. So those are games against solid programs and teams, some of which, well, three of those are away from Sanford Stadium. So I think there's reason to believe that they could trip up here or there, but I think we'd all be pretty floored if they weren't in an expanded playoff. Texas comes in at number 2. The blurb here reads, if Georgia's explainer wasn't enough of a hint, we anticipate that Texas will assimilate well to its new dig. Steve Sarkisian has built this roster into a powerhouse, and they had a breakthrough last year with a run to the college football playoff. Quinn Ewers back as the starting quarterback, loads of talent to work with. Defense has some key areas to replace, notably both interior defensive line spots and both starting boundary corners, but there's reason to believe they'll be serviceable enough. I think a lot of people are just putting a lot of eggs in the fact that Texas has had very good recruiting classes. Quinn Ewers is back. Steve Sarkisian is thought of as a really good play caller. They'll figure out the rest. Number 3 is not Alabama. It's Ole Miss. And this is going to be common, I think. I think a lot of people are going to suggest that Ole Miss is better than Alabama. And I think a lot of that has to do with Jackson Dart and this transfer portal class that everybody is in love with. I'm just going to sit back and wait to see it. I have said many, many times on this show that I think that Lane Kiffin is a really scary guy to play against in terms of the way that he can call plays. I think Jackson Dart played better last year than I thought he would entering last season. Last year, I was down on Ole Miss entering the season. Why? Because they lost 5 of their last 6, including the Egg Bowl. And I just thought, you know what? Maybe Lane Kiffin's not going to build a solid team. They're not going to play very good defense. But Pete Golding kind of fixed that a little bit last year, and they did play great on offense, and they brought in a lot of guys spending some money in the transfer portal. So a lot of people are going to feel like Ole Miss is number 3. I'll need to see it, and I truly hope they fall flat on their face. I think that would be hilarious. You got Bama at 4. Jalen Milroe is back. A lot of guys that left town when Nick Saban decided to hang them up. Caleb Downs being the biggest name there. Caden Proctor was, and he decided to come back, so you've got that. But I think that I speak for everyone who's listening here that's not draped in crimson and white. How funny is this melt going to be if they lose 3 games? Like, how humorous can things get? I have talked about the guy who follows the guy for over a decade. And I have said for over a decade the same thing. Now, I didn't know they were going to span the playoff, so it doesn't equate anymore. But my line had always been, the next guy is going to be so excited to come into Alabama. He's going to put that Crimson A on. The $1 million band's going to lead him out in Bryant-Denny Stadium in front of 100,000. And if he goes 10-2 and wins the Sugar Bowl, they will try to run him flat out of town. Now, that was before the playoffs, so now 10-2, I think, gets you into the playoff. So you'd have to go 9-3 now, which I don't think drives the point home just as much. But if Kalen DeBoer has coached 3 seasons in Tuscaloosa and he's lost a total of 6 games and hasn't played in the national championship game, everyone in that state is going to despise him. That's the point. They believe that their right is to beat everyone and win the national championship. They don't understand that Nick is the reason this happened. I'm not too old to remember Mike Shula. I am not too old to remember Dennis Francione. Okay? It can happen. Everybody's fallen off a cliff here or there. USC did, Texas did, Miami did, LSU did. Tennessee still hadn't gotten back. They're not immune to this. And we're maybe not there, and maybe Kalen DeBoer is the next great dude. But I'm just holding out hope that 9-3 happens and we can listen to Feinbaum, because that's going to be popcorn worthy. Got Missouri at number 5. A lot of people feeling really good about Eli Drinkwitz's team. You got Brady Cook back. You've obviously got Luther Burden. Tennessee's at 6. You move on from Joe Milton. Nico Iamaleava is going to be the quarterback there, 5-star guy that they've been really high on in Knoxville for a long time. And that's what brings us to LSU at number 7. The blurb here reads, replacing a Heisman Trophy winner is hard. Replacing a Heisman Trophy winner with a guy that has just one start in 3 years at LSU would normally cause some consternation. But man, it's really hard not to be excited about Garrett Nussmeier. Though the few tantalizing glimpses we've gotten him since he signed with the Tigers in 2021, Nussmeier seems to have all the tools necessary to succeed at this level. He's got a great frame, poise, immense arm strength, accuracy at every level. Nussmeier love aside, LSU's ceiling is significantly lowered by a defense that constantly let it down last season and faces some major questions ahead of 2024. I think that's pretty fair. I'm super excited about Garrett Nussmeier. I'm kind of petrified about defense. I think that my college football calendar of optimism is going to set in for me too with this defense, and I'll talk myself into thinking they'll make it work, and it's not going to be a top 10 defense in the country, but they'll be top 45 and they'll win a lot of games. Like I'll probably work myself into that frenzy in August, and I'm confident when I get on the plane to go to Vegas that I'll think they're going to be phenomenal and beat USC by 20. That's just the way the calendar works. As I sit here in May, I'm not too stubborn, too man to say, I don't really know about this defense. So I think it's fair, and I think the spot at 7 is probably fair. I think LSU could work its way up to 3 or 4. I think they could fall down to 8 or 9 if things go really south of the defense. We'll see. Got Oklahoma at 8, Kentucky at 9, Texas A&M at 10. I got a lot of heat in the first hour, and I said I thought that the line of Texas A&M being favored over LSU made some sense. I still think that it did. I think that Connor Wigman is good, and I think A&M's probably better than the 10th team in the league, but they lost a lot, and it's year 1, and there's a lot to prove there, so we'll just kind of see. The good news for A&M from a schedule perspective, Texas comes to Kyle Field, LSU comes to Kyle Field, Notre Dame comes to Kyle Field, Alabama's not on the schedule. So it's a favorable schedule for Texas A&M. We'll just see how it shakes out. And then I think, Florida being down at 11, I don't know if I trust them ahead of Auburn. South Carolina, I think they're going to be bad, but Graham Mertz is okay, so maybe that makes some sense. They've got Florida at number 11, Auburn at 12, South Carolina at 13, Arkansas at 14, Mississippi State at 15, and Vanderbilt at 16. I'm very comfortable saying I'll be shocked if anybody finishes with a worse SEC record than Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. We always pick Mississippi State to finish last in the old SEC West, and very rarely did they finish last in the old SEC West. But this team looks really rough. They've got to overhaul the entire offense again. I think Arkansas is going to be putrid, and Vanderbilt's always putrid, so that's pretty easy to wager on. So I think those 3 teams are the worst. How the shakeout is in the 5 or 6 teams ahead of them with Kentucky, A&M, Florida, Auburn, LSU, Oklahoma, Tennessee, that's maybe a little bit, and I'd put Missouri in that group as well, maybe a little bit more fascinating than the bottom of the barrel there. But if you want to see those power rankings, read all the blurbs, kind of get your feet wet from a football perspective, would suggest you check it out up at cbssports.com. It is from Will Backus, who I tried to get on today, but did not hear back from him earlier today. So, hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.